I wanted to make a quick video just to show how I update mods using this application. And the reason I wanted to do this is I think that by sharing the processes that we do, it gives insight into not only how a person might think, not that I not that that's the route I'm going, but it helps to understand that process that a person uses, and you can kind of see the steps they take, and oftentimes the steps that we take to do things are very, very logical. Before we get started, there are some features that are not debugged. Some programs that are not going to work properly are external programs that I wrote, probably anywhere from 5 to 8 years ago. They've never been updated, and these were what I called quick and dirty programs, just to give me a placeholder and some code to work with that I could go back at a later time and revisit. And that was before this whole interface kind of changed. But let me show you kind of like how I do it. So, you can see my modded game here. These are the plugins in my load order. And generally I don't like, or generally I believe that you shouldn't change this anytime during a playthrough. And the reason being is because there are scripts that are loaded. There could be script frames on the stack, and when a script is changed, let's say the game automatically recognizes that you've changed a script and loads the new script, there are frames on the stack that belong to the previous script. So that might not really be the best idea. The game might mitigate it to a certain degree or be able to handle that kind of situation, but it's not really, I don't think it's really the best. All right, let me check our timestamps here, make sure we're good. Okay. All right. So this is my modded game. And what I do is I keep, me personally, now each person doesn't have to do this, but this is just me personally. I keep a database of mods. It's just all the mods I download, I put on a server, and they can be from a long, gosh, probably back in the early 2000s. And as long as I have these, I can always fall back on them. And that's really what this was designed to do. I wanted to be able to mod a game with any mod that was available, and without having to try to locate the mods and things like that. But without getting into all that, so let's talk about the modded game. So I noticed when I maintain my local mod file database, I noticed that there are mods that changed. Some of them, because I know what's in my load order, so I know that Excel changed and Community Fixes changed. Those two mods actually changed. So I'm going to want to update those. Let me hop over here. Not that tab, there we go. I already have them here in this local database. They could also be in other locations, or repositories, as I'm going to call it. So this is my local repository, and you can see the number of files I have. So I do know that Excel changed and Community Fixes Merge changed. So I want to include this in my game. I believe the DLLs will be fine. These over here are plugins. This is just a plugin list that is loaded through F4SE that is in the currently modded game. So I believe Excel will be fine. Although it actually does have a configuration file. And the one thing that you could probably lock the configuration file if you want, but one thing I didn't do is to very easily dynamically select which files that you want to update, which I'm going to show you here shortly. Okay, so I do know Excel changed. So what I want to do is I want to go over here. Let's bring this up. Not that. I want to go over to here, and I want to look up Excel. There we go. Okay. And I know that this changed. So let's take a look at this. And what I need is the current file name. That's really all I need. So I need to see what the file name is. I'm not going to download it. I've already done that. So, but what I need is this. This is the current file name. Okay, so I need that. And then what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go over to this tab, which is my downloads file. And I'm going to use the clipboard because I did copy the file name. And what this does, now this is actually going to fire an external application which hasn't been changed in like a long time. So it is not going to work. Okay, this is an external app, and I'll tell you what this does. This will be changed. I haven't worked on this in, God, anywhere from I think 5 years, and it was just a quick and dirty. But what it is this. So all it does is basically it just parses a FOMOD, and this is long before I really knew about the format of a FOMOD. I just looked at it real quickly and tried to pick out the things I thought I needed. So it really only this particular version, which is way outdated and completely needs to be refactored. It only handles a very narrow set of FOMODs. So if it doesn't like it, it's going to crash. And there's very little edits in this. This is what I called a quick and dirty, but this is basically it. But we're going to skip this. And this particular one I'm going to skip because this is a FOMOD. Okay, so what we've done is I've literally just said, okay, I told my application, I want you to use the clipboard, and I want you to locate the file that I just selected. So I already have the repository sources set up. So it's going to look through all these repositories to find the file I'm looking for, getting the first one available. And that's the priority order, is the order the repositories are listed in. So the primary repository is locally here on this hard drive, whereas the secondary repository will be my NAS box over behind me. So if we go over to here, which is the available, and I think this is a bug which I'm trying to work through, which is odd because it doesn't really set the tab right. I'm not really sure why that is. But if we go down here and to the bottom, you can literally see this is the folder that was extracted. And you can configure to automatically activate or deactivate a mod up on extraction. That's externally, it's a external text file that you basically configure to say when you extract you want to activate, so it's activated. Now there is a bug in this activation code, because this is kind of like it creates these series of events in that pipe. So this pipe has an edit in here that does bypass plugins, which I'll show you in a minute. So in a sense, I've just extracted a mod, but I want to put the mod in my current game. So, but what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to manually format the folder. Now there's two features in the application. There is a feature inside this application which will attempt to format the data that is extracted into an installable to an installable format, to something that can be directly installed into the game. And again, that code is really old. It's got a place marker code just to kind of say, this is where this is, it works in the flow of everything, but it definitely needs some refactoring. And then of course, if you have a FOMOD, that can be handled with that FOMOD utility, which again needs to be refactored. Because right now, for a lot of mods, it's pretty much that external app is pretty much it's useless. But there's also a third thing built in to where you can use the scripting library to create a kind of dynamic menu, which every time you select an option will show you whatever options are associated with the one you selected. And I'll show you all that stuff later. But that also needs to be refined, and there is some refactoring work and testing to do on that. But for right now, let me show you this. So we're just going to open location. And again, open location is simply, I'll just show you real quick. It's just a menu option over here, just so you can see it. So it kind of gives you an idea. And like I say, I like to share ideas because it also gives everyone else other ideas. Okay, so you see open location. So there's open location, and here is the operation code and the parameters that are passed to it. And then that, of course, is the image. So when you see open location, it is not hard-coded in this program. None of the menus are. There's no menu in this application that's hard-coded. It's all defined externally. So the data folder is what's going to get installed. So you have the root folder and then you have the data folder. That's going to go straight into the game. So this is what I call an installable format. It can be just directly installed, or you can use folder junctions or symlinks if it's loose resource files. So everything looks like it's here. See, there's the F4SE, you have your plugins, but the plugins aren't here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the build, and I want the NG version of Excel. Again, now this is just something the FOMOD utility would do, but I haven't had the time to do it. I haven't had time to work on that external app, but it's coming. So we're going to do this manually, and this kind of shows people how to do it manually. So that's the one I want. I want the NG version, not the old gen version. So we're going to go all the way back over here to the data folder, and then we're going to just paste these in because that's the ones I want. And there's no other plugin, there's nothing here, there's no other plugins to deal with. Now, I could go into this FOMOD utility here, and I could look up this particular file, and I can read it now. Back then, I had a general idea. Well, not even a general, probably very basic, But this actually shows you kind of like how you can do it manually, right? So I don't need the build anymore, and I definitely don't need. So I hold down the control key. I don't need this. Okay, I just need the data folder. So we're gonna delete that. So now this is a directly installable folder. So like I say, this is the folder as it would appear in the game. And that one's done. So what I want to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take a look and say, now you don't have to do this. This is what I do. Because again, I'm trying to test all these features, and I like to really know what's in my game. When I mod my game, I like to know down to the byte what's in my game. So I'm gonna take a look at this. So let's see what's currently in there. Let's do because what we're gonna do is this is the mod we just extracted. So I want to check. I'm going to do an install check on that mod. And what this is going to do is look at this mod that I've just extracted, and it's going to say, is this mod installed? And this is the hashing feature I was telling you about. And this is the quickest hash possible. So it's not going to pick up changes, very, very simple changes, because what it is, it's a sample. It's a sampling hash. So it only samples. It takes a file. You say you want 10 samples, and you want the samples to be a long word. So let's say 64 bits. Then it's going to take the size of the file, divide by 10, and it's going to grab a long word at every one of those interims. So, and then that is converted into a hex value, which is then combined into a hash value. Therefore, your hash value can be as big as you want. It can be a 1 megabyte hash if you want, but that's taken it to an extreme. So you can see where it does pick up certain things, such as a size difference, which is what I was looking for. So these are not installed. And what I can do over here, it's the same installation routine. Do you see where it says update, merge? It's got install, update, and merge. These are the exact same function. It's just one passes a switch that says, I want you to install every file as it is. I want you to only install those files that don't already exist. That's a merge. Or I want you only to install those files that already exist but are different. So that's basically what that is. So what we're going to do is, because I know that these had to have changed, and this flags it as not being changed, which is not correct. But again, that's due to just a very low quality hashing sample. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and we're just going to do the merge. We're going to do a merge. I mean, technically I could do, let me take a look. Yeah, that's source code, so I don't really care about that. So let's just do a merge, okay? And you can see up here that, let's see. Oh, right, we can't merge. My bad. I wasn't even paying attention. So, well, it's a good test to show. You can't merge it because these files already exist. There's nothing here that doesn't already exist in the game. So let's just do an update then. Let's try an update. And then you'll see that only those files, you can't update something that that hasn't changed. And again, it just does a simple hash check. So you can see where it installed the DLLs, the PDB, and also the INI. Now, the INI file could have my own custom settings in it. And this is what I was talking about. Looking at this, I need to grain this so some files can be deselected. Or maybe if files are marked, only, like if I go down here and I'm not really sure. I have to think about that one. But maybe if they're marked in such a way, it only installs those specific files in that function. I'll have to take a look at it. And that's it. So in that effect, it is in the game. And if the check install is up, if this form is up, it automatically will update this form with whatever I just installed. And it's kind of a global thing, which I'll talk about that later. But that's it. So that one's done. Other than the manual having to go in and manually tweak it, you could go in and specify a data folder, but in that instance, you had multiple DLLs, so that wouldn't have worked. But that's that. And again, when the FOMod utility, when I go back and refactor that shouldn't be a problem. You should just be able to do a couple clicks and you're good. So let's take a look at the next one. We'll just leave this stuff up. We'll take a look at the next one. The next one is community fixes merged. So let's bring this one back up. And I know this one changed. Okay, fixes merged. I know this one changed. Now this one is a plugin. What I've noticed when updating plugins like this, what I've noticed is it can, a game that runs smooth now begins to stutter. So I won't know if it's going to do anything to my current game, but we're going to do this nonetheless. Same process. I know that one updated. I know I have it. Let's go back over here. And then again, let's just use the clipboard to find the file. And that's it. So let's go back over to here. Now this is, I have to figure this out. It's adding one to it. That's a simple bug that could be fixed. But over here, take a look at this. So now you can see that one did just fine. That one is fine. So we don't have to look at it, but I always look at it to make sure, because again, this thing is not even alpha yet. So I want to make sure that things are being handled properly. So I'm just going to very quickly just grab that location and let's just take a look. So everything's where it should be. It looks good. So there's nothing really to do to that. But let's check it out. So I always check it to see, and I can see what's changed. So it looks like that he's changed his plugin, and he looks like he's changed his main archive is BA2. And I can do the same thing with this. So we're just going to do the exact same thing. Okay, there's a bug here, so we're going to bypass this bug, and I'll show you what this is. So this isn't going to be normal, but I want to explain what I'm doing, so that way you can see kind of like a debug process. So, and I know what it's going to do. Okay, so over here we have community fixes. This is the merged one. So what I want to do is I want to locate the mod. I did not want to do that one. That's the one. I did not want to do that one. I apologize. That's going to take a minute. What I wanted to do is I wanted to go over to here and I wanted to find the mod, not which mod. And you can see that this is the one that it knows is installed. This is the one that's installed at the moment. Okay, so I need to install this. Now normally when this automatically activates, it will point to the new mod. However, I did change some code and I haven't gone back to fix this. So this is like a bug on the list to fix. But what we're going to do is we're going to deactivate it and then we're going to reactivate it. Now this should point, because somehow it's missing something in the activation. So now if we look at this, if we go in and find the mod, now it points to the correct mod. So now that is the mod, and like I say, normally you don't have to do all this kind of stuff. You just kind of, go and, extract it and you're good to go. But I'm just showing you the process. So now it's not really installed in the game. I mean, well, this one is. This one up here is. We actually installed the Excel one. But what I want to do is I'm going to go over here and I want to show you what happens if you take a look at active but not installed. So there's a function here called active not installed, and you can see it over here. So this mod is active. It's active here. See, it's active here. And now if I was to say which mod is this, it pointed to this one here. And you can do the same with archive. It's just a simple search function that specifies which list you want to search in. Over here you can see there's two mods that are active, but they're not installed in the game. And the first one I want to look at here is this one. I want to show you this one. So what we want to do is we want to, let's take a look and see. Let's try this. I put some test code in here, so let's see if this works. So I want to know which mods, and it's actually looking through archive files, so it does take a little bit. To actually do the file search is quick, but it's going through all the archives in the load order to see if that file is in like a BA2 or a BSA file. So here you can see that there are two instances. And like I said, you don't have to do this. This is just, I like to make sure that I can access data. So if there's a problem, did I install the right file, which file is installed, and all that kind of stuff. So you can see that there are two files. This is the current one that's installed. It's the hotfix. So I really don't want to replace the hotfix with this particular mod. I don't really want to do this. So if I add this mod, it's going to overwrite. That's what the red means. Add equals overwrite. This is the actual mod that's installed. So I want to leave that one alone. And you can look up other resource files, and there's another type of search you can do if you want to really do just a brute force search. I can show you that here in a little bit. But let me keep focus on this. So that's how I can check. So a lot of times I'll take a look to see what I want to install and what I don't want to install. Now, right now, this mod right here, this community fixes, this one is not in, it's active in the load order, but it's not installed. Let's save this real quick. So it's active but not installed. So I can leave it like this and I can play the game, and that's a nice placeholder. So I can stay up to date on whatever the current mod is in my game, but I don't have to install it. It's ready to go. So every time I run my game, every time I go to run this game, this is automatically set up to run. And it'll throw this up and say, you are running a game that you have mods, you have plugins that are active in your load order, but they are not installed. And because sometimes I'll just install a bunch of stuff and then I'll forget and I'll be like, wow, this is not in here. What's going on? And then I go back and think, oh, yeah, I may not install the mod. And that's why it's there. It's just like a double check. I like having double checks. And when I have a double check, I have a reassurance that what I intended to do, I did. And then therefore, I don't have to sit there and ponder in the ether what could I have done, without, like, okay, it doesn't work. What did I not do? I can clearly see that. So this is not really in a queue, and it's just a bunch of references. So, the references are different, but what's installed doesn't match the current reference. So, and that's really all it is. Very, very simple stuff. And the reason, like I say, the reason it's in Visual Basic, so pretty much anyone can jump in and modify the source code. So they don't really need to learn C#, assembler. So there's a very short learning curve if you've never programmed before. And that's that. That's really all there is to it. There's really not much to that. It's very simple. So now if I was to run the program, which we'll run the game real quick, but I'm going to have to I don't want to. It's got to have music in it, and that music, even though it's copyrighted music, the I think the author allows it to be used because it's in a Fallout game. But what I'm gonna do is if I click play, or if I'm gonna play the game, it'll automatically throw that up, which I'll show you real quick. So see how it automatically throws it up? So it says, okay, you've just launched the game, but there's mods that you have active in your load order that you haven't installed. So technically I did install it, but it's a previous version. So there's a new version out. And did I hit the right one? Come on, come on, come on. I don't want to. Yeah, there we go. Let's do this. All right. So hopefully this will not. I'll get into the game. I should have just exited out, but I'll get into the game real quick. And I always do this to make sure if I update it, things actually load. Because sometimes they don't load properly. And, like it modifies or changes something, and then the game doesn't load. What used to load before now crashes. I've noticed things like that. So it's always good to kind of see if the actual game, once you update something, which you shouldn't do, because I think it messes up because I think it causes a disconnect between the actual script that's loaded and the stack frames, the scripts frames that are on the stack. Now that's just a guess on my part. Okay, so we're good. Let's just go ahead and quit. We'll go back to the desktop. And I'll show you a few more things. So you'll see that once, and it's updating some files. It's doing different things. You can see it updated the screenshot, which is the most recent game. Here it's going to add the session. The session should appear down here at the bottom when it's done. And this is a big file. This file has, so there's the new session. Then it updated with the so you can see the detail. That's the papyrus log chunk that it grabbed based on timestamps. So of course there's nothing in there. There's no errors because nothing was done. But you can also go over to the manifest. Where's our manifest here? We're not going to be able to do it that way, I don't think. Manifest. Yeah, we're not going to be, because somehow it fried that out. I have no idea what happened. All right, let's see. Where's our manifest? It's one of these numbers here. Not that one, but that one. There we go. So, and I don't know. That's interesting. I'll figure that out here in a minute. But I just want to show you the process. So if you can ignore that, great. Down here you can see what was installed, what wasn't installed, what was installed. That's what this is. This is the first time I went to install it, and it basically said, I didn't install anything. Nothing was installed. And then you can see here where I actually replaced the files. So that way you can look at the manifest. Now, if the load order changes, it will add entries into your manifest so you can see. Because sometimes what would happen is let's see if I can find one real quick. Like this one here. So you can see that it removed these from the load order. Because sometimes I'm not paying attention, and I might or even there could be a bug in the code where, and there is one, where if you're removing multiple plugins in one shot, the indexes, I'm pretty sure I'm not updating the indexes each time, because I was trying to find a fast way to do it all in one shot, but it's the way I've got it linked together. So it will actually deactivate plugins that you didn't want to deactivate. So when that happens, it'll when you go to run the game, it'll pop up and say, hey, the load order has changed. Like, well, I didn't really change anything. And then you can also say, okay, what changed? I'm not sure what changed. So you could load the game and note the plugins, but you can also go over to here and it'll tell you exactly what happened, what changed. So, and that's kind of like the basis of that. That way I can kind of really know exactly what's in my game, what isn't in my game. Where you have available mods over here, again, you gotta ignore this. This is killing me. But where you have available mods over here, you can literally scan every one of these files. There, that option is built in. So when I do like which mod, like if I want to know which mod this is, like in this community thing, if I go in here and do which mods, it's actually passing a switch or a flag, if you want to call it that, to that function that literally says, I only want you to look in the mods that I have in my load order. But you could actually look for other mods as well. You know, that's anything that's in this available list. You could do that if you wanted to try to find one that you've extracted previously but is not currently in your load order. It does cache the folders, so the first time you go to do it, it may take quite a while because it's got to scan each folder, but it does cache that data. So the next time you go to scan it, it's pretty quick. Okay, one more thing I want to show you is, and I'm not sure where it is exactly, but we're going to take a look. I think it's in a search, because like I say, this is just to test things, and let's see. I don't think it's. Oh, you know what? Let's search. I don't know if plugins is what I'm looking for, but let's take a look at this. This is oh, look at that little thing. I gotta fix that one. That is defined in an external file. That's where I actually went in, and actually a couple weeks ago I refactored this forms. You know, refactored how the forms designer code, and this is from a previous version. You know what? I could probably show you how this works. Give me a second. Let me see here. Okay, we want to find text. So what I want to do is, and if this is the case, we're looking for styles or formats maybe. Let's see. Let's see, what did I do with it? All right, we can do it. We could probably go directly to the folder and grab it, but where? Okay. So here's where we define the form. And what we want to do is we're going to look for our find text form. Okay. So it looks like in find text, I don't give the size. And I do believe I changed that to full filled. So I think I want size full filled. I believe is what that is. I believe that's because this is where you define what you want to capture. You know, this is where you link into your inputs and all that. And I believe that's what I want. So let's see if that works. So now you can see the full field. So see, now it's different. And that's where forms are designed in an external file. And that allows you to do a little bit more. It kind of adds a little bit of extensibility. I haven't fully fleshed all that out, but that's how that works. And these forms are all multi-threaded. So every one of these forms is multi-threaded. So they don't stop the flow of the application, and once you provide input, it automatically knows what function to go back to what function to send that input back to. So that's the framework that this front end application uses. So this framework can be used for any type of application, really. Okay, so what I want to do is I have no idea what's in plugin, so let's take a look. I'm just gonna take a guess. Let's look up pistol. This is probably going to take a little bit. It actually puts this over here. It's looking for the most current list view that I used. Okay, so over here, you see this? This is a list of plugins. Now, what this is something I mentioned previously. This, again, is thrown in as a place marker, but I'm going to leave it in here as well as to allow extensibility for the application. So all this did, it's incredibly simple. I load a plugin as a text string, and I look for pistol. I look for just the text pistol. So these are the plugins that has pistol in it. Now what this lets me do is, the idea behind this is I can do a resource search for plugins, or not plugins, but I can do, well, yeah, you can do that. Or I can look for a file, such as something that might contain, let's say, workshop framework PEX or workshop script.pex, and I can see if there's anything that has that in it. It automatically searches archives for you, and then it searches for loose files. This is a brute force. This is like, I don't really care what the file is. I don't care what the data is. I just want to know if what I'm looking for is found in that file. It doesn't care if it's text or binary because it loads it all as text. So anything that is encrypted or basically compressed, like using L4Z, or I forget the other one, LZA or something, I forget. But whatever, it's not going to be able to find those. But what this does is say, okay, which plugin is referencing a form that I know the name of, what's referencing that? So that way, if somebody says, because the whole idea behind this is to get to a point to where a person can say, oh, this mod's not working. Well, this is the record, this is the form name that controls the behavior that you're saying is not working correctly. So, okay, well, I can easily just go in, load the plugin up as a text string, simply do a search and say, yep, that form name is in there. And I don't know if I have like in there, like quote, quote, like. It's where you can actually search with a pattern. I probably do, but I haven't done it yet. And then down here, if you have a different search, you can just put it in here. And again, that's actually defined in this file. That is what that is. And it in a sense, it captures events. The program has its own event system. It does use Windows events, but it captures them, reformats them, and then puts them down a command pipe. So, and it queues it up. So that way it'll take it in the order that it's supposed to come in. But yeah, that's what I wanted to show you about updating, so that way you can kind of see a couple more features that's built in and how it might work. And like I say, they're very, very simple features, and the way the code is written and the way the features are laid out, it should be something that a person, even if they don't program, can look at it, kind of read it and say, okay, this is what this is doing, and then they should be, they should be able to modify it, clean it up, kind of anything they want to do. So, but that's that. Wanted to kind of show you. That's how I kind of update it. It was a little more convoluted. It was a little more steps than what I wanted to show, but that's only because there's work and refactoring to do, which is kind of like what I'm doing in the background. All right, so yeah, that's it. Yeah, if you got any suggestions or anything, or if you want to say, hey, dude, that's the stupidest garbage I've ever seen, feel free to fire away. Because you may have some good ideas. But all right, guys. So, anyways, have fun modding, and yeah, good luck, and just enjoy the game. Don't. I know it's gonna crash, and try not to get frustrated with it.